committee meeting. We'll begin with roll call, please.
Weigel.
Here.
Ballard.
Here.
Berry.
Here.
Hart. Moran. Parker. Here. Singer.
Here.
Tranier.
Here.
Gould.
Here.
We have a quorum. We also have Mr. Brooks present.
Alrighty. Mr. Singer, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lori. Here are the minutes of April the 4th for approval.
So moved. Second.
Moved in second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. There's no old business this morning. Our first item of new business is the Village of Romeoville request for variance to allow mid-block traffic signal on Weber Road into Romeo Town Center Shopping Plaza, County Board Districts 3 and 13. As a part of your agenda, there's certain information labeled A, B, C, and D. So if anyone would like to address the committee, there is a sign-up sheet in the back. So I would ask that everyone please sign in first, and we'll take those persons in the order in which they sign. Lana, do you happen to have a...
The sign-in sheet is on the back table, right where this gentleman is. There's a pen right there.
Thank you. Okay.
I got it.
Is anyone else signing up?
Well, I had nothing more.
Okay.
Okay, please state your name and address the committee.
My name is William Shiner, 16.
Excuse me. Yeah.
You don't need a trust.
I
You
did,
can't ask for a trust.
did I ask for a address? I'm sorry. We used to do that.
I know.
Force a habit.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
I don't know. Well, that's for another day. I'll ask about that one too. Go ahead.
Chairman Gould and other committee members, I want to thank you for taking the time to hear our presentation today. Mayor Noak from the Village of Romeoville is here, will be speaking. Our engineers, Ross and Bill from DeWalt Hamilton, who have prepared our traffic study, will be speaking. And I've just introduced myself. I'm not sure if our attorneys are going to be speaking or not. I don't think so. But anyway, what our engineers are going to show when I introduce them is that what we've done is prepared an alternative to the current engineering plans that, one, will be both safe, using the county numbers and traffic studies from 2040, using all of their numbers, will also show that operationally it has an immaterial delay through the intersection. And in fact, improves it. But I'll let the engineers get to that when they talk. The important thing, there are two things that we don't meet. And one of them is the SRA guidelines, the other thing are the warrants. And that is absolutely true. But we do meet all the other standards. And I think it was an interesting, you gave us the good fortune of coming before public comment, and one of the county board members on the transportation committee asked the question after the meeting, and I was overhearing it, well, why should we grant anyone an exception for economic development? Why can't everyone actually ask for that exception? And it was a great question. I've been thinking about it for about a month coming here. And one of the things about that I think that's really important is I started working on this project in 1997. And a residential developer went in for a subdivision, created a residential lot that met his needs, and left a 20-acre site, which is what we ultimately purchased from the residential developer. And as a result of that, I think today, or maybe 10 years later, that particular parcel wouldn't be subdivided in the manner that it was. At the time, and we had gone to the county and asked for access on Weber Road, and they said, well, we can't give you access on Weber Road, but we will give you access on 135th, which was acceptable to our tenant. I would tell you if we came in today with that plan, the reason we're here, it probably wouldn't be accepted. And the subdivision itself, prior to us being involved with the residential developer who came in with the original subdivision, probably wouldn't do that. So we have an existing condition, and I think what we're here to do is asking the board and the Transportation Committee to grant an exception and to look at our parcel as being not exceptional, but an exception that can be granted because, one, of existing conditions. Two, we have a CVS lease, as an example, that will not go forward without access because our access on 135th is taken away. If you look at that, that's probably a loss of 25 jobs. And the CVS alone probably in total is about $350,000 a year in sales tax revenue. So for the next decade, about $3.5 million. About $50,000 a year in property taxes, so that's another $500,000 over 10 years. So not including jobs and economic generation that provides, you're looking at a loss of revenue to the taxpayers of about $4 million over a decade. So you've got an existing condition, you've got an economic problem, and for me personally, I've been involved with this project for 20 years, and I'm very concerned about leaving and what it means for our company, me personally, to leave a site that will be blighted if we're unable to have access and allow us to continue to own and operate and manage the shopping center. And it obviously affects Romeoville. The vacant Dominick's we've been unable to lease because we have to disclose that we don't have access and tenants aren't going to go forward. The loss of revenue there is probably another 15 to 20 million in sales. The county tax is 7%. Let's assume there's some exempted taxes and cut that in half. Even at half, you're looking at $700,000 or $800,000 a year in lost revenue and probably a loss of 50 to 60 jobs. And we think, so the existing conditions, the economic impact, and so there are, the SRA route are guidelines. There are things that there are exceptions. There are exceptions in Will County that have been granted. I've got exceptions here, but I don't want to waste your time, but I'll pass these out, that have been granted throughout for economic development reasons, for existing conditions reasons. And so we're asking the board to consider the fact that we have an existing condition, we have an existing shopping center. We acknowledge today that that asset wouldn't be built in the way that it was, but it was. And so we'd like you to consider the economic impact to Romeoville, and we'd like you to distinguish between a condition that's been there for 20 years prior to the engineering standards changing and the position we're in. So with that, I will in fact pass a couple things out so you have it on file. You can just pass this out. This is a Mariano Center that was built in Cook County on Waukegan and Gulf Road on an SRA route. The reason I brought that out is because that stoplight that was installed on Waukegan Road is the identical distance that we're proposing our stoplight. And like our stoplight, it is a three-way stoplight. And so that's literally the exact square footage from the corner on an SRA route where an exception was granted for economic reasons, and also that particular site was subdivided in a way that could not be re-subdivided any other way because of development around it. So there's a lot of similarities with that, and that's probably the most important. So I'm not going to, the other one is, I can get at some point. But what I'd like to do, I think, is have the Mayor Noak is here. I'd like him to speak if he could, and after Mayor Noak, I'd like the engineers to walk you through the study and show how our numbers are actually agreed to by the consultant report by the county. So with that, I'm going to introduce Mayor Noak from the Village of Romeoville. And thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you all for letting us come here today. It's good to see everyone. I think Mr. Shiner has hit upon a lot of the key points, which is this is an existing condition. Obviously, we all, and municipalities oftentimes have to look at existing conditions to talk about exceptions. It comes before us probably quite often on a number of different things, whether it's transportation, codes. Existing conditions always leave us with what probably aren't what we'd all hope to be the ultimate solution. And I think, when we look at green space, raw space, We understand those limitations. We understand what we must do, what the developer must do. And oftentimes, as municipalities were left incentivizing in order to accomplish those needs and new standards. But again, in this situation, we're left with a site that existed some time ago and is a pre-existing condition, which is being impacted negatively by this project. You know, when this project came forward originally, we expressed not only concerns about this site, but several sites along the corridor, and the impact on potential economic development for the corridor, and what it might mean to it. And today, we're seeing that come to flourishing. This is not the only site that we have concerns about, and those concerns continue to get worse. And again, I must say that these were expressed at the very beginning of this process, and whether or not they were given full weight, we'll see what the end result is. But today, we're in all probability, this site of all the sites is probably the one that, when we talk about it, it exists, and it's already vacant, it's already a problem. And we're not here to argue the engineering. We have plenty of engineers who go back and forth on engineering, but we all know the reality. There are instances where exemptions are made for pre-existing conditions. That happens. Is it going to be perfect? No. I'm not here to say it's going to be perfect. No. I'm not an engineer, and I'm not going to even try and make that argument. But what I can tell you, what I know from Mr. Shiner, what I can tell you from what I know from the current economic climate is, if we don't give this serious consideration, we're probably going to end up with a blighted situation. The corridor is going to get more difficult for us going forward because the construction is going to mean less access. So once that begins, it's going to be years before it's even easy to market again, because everybody will avoid it during the construction period as well. So we're going to be left with years of declining sales and probably increasing blighted situation if we don't get creative and get aggressive about how to address this corridor. And we have opportunities, many of which I can't talk about today in the corridor, but are also concerned about what this construction means for access. We see projects around the county that are asking for substantial investments from the public bodies in order to create economic development, and are also asking for access across what are perceived to be protected wetlands. And everybody seems to jump for new development on some of those. Today, we're talking about saving sites and developing sites that we can do without additional investment on top of what's already going to happen. So I ask you to consider the economics of this, the impact on the residents. Bill talks a little bit about the impact of Romeoville, but this isn't just the impact of Romeoville. There are probably 12,000 to 15,000 unincorporated residents immediately across from Bill's site. They don't live in Romeoville. And frankly, they're the ones I hear more from than anybody. I'll give you a story. I was out election day, as I often do, and as many of us do, I buy breakfast and lunch for election judges. And thankfully, we had the good grace to not have opponents this last time, but we still do it, and we go out and we talk to people. And as I'm delivering breakfast and lunch to many of the residents in Caroline and some of the other subdivisions across from this that are unincorporated, number one thing I heard asked about was this site. You know why? Because there's no grocery close proximity. The lion's share of those people, those 12 to 15,000 people, are seniors. And you know what? They don't like to drive very far. They like to have traditional grocery relatively close. And it's a tough market. But it becomes even tougher to occupy a site when you have limited access. And so they repeatedly ask time and time again, what is happening at their sites? And these aren't even our residents that are concerned about it. We talk about the borough corridor, and yes, it is a major north-south corridor, but it's also become a major economic corridor along its route. And residents don't just want us to put traffic on in and out of the county for industrial warehouses. Yes, we need to do it because it's good for our economy, but we also need to create economic opportunities that bring in grocery stores, restaurants, the amenities that our residents are looking for. And a corridor like this has to have that as well. But those types of uses require access. So it's something we need to consider as we go forward. The world has changed. It's evolved. The marketplace has changed. It's become much more difficult to attract retail and development of that scale than it was prior to the recession. And we faced that. We continue to face that. We try to find new and innovative ways to bring in more development. In this case, refill development, redevelopment. You know, I really dread the day that if we don't figure out a solution to this, that this becomes increasingly blighted. And unfortunately, I think the reality may end up being, and Mr. Shiner can speak to his group's future, that they may have to walk away from the site, which will probably continue to deteriorate it further. There's a PNC Bank on the site that's now not occupied. There's an Applebee's across the street that's not occupied. And there's reasons why. It's access, in large part. And we need to be cognizant of that. We've offered as a community to incentivize any of these deals. For us, this is quality of life for residents. It's future of our corridor. Having a blighted situation in this corridor will only continue to bleed up north and south along the entire Romeoville corridor. So we also have to consider that. You know, and then property taxes. You know, you look at the property tax generation, it's not just to our village, it's also to the county, but more importantly, so our school districts. School districts receive a tremendous amount of revenue off of these areas. So we have to think about that as well. And if it continues to decline, every time one of these becomes unoccupied, they will turn around and they will apply for relief, immediate relief, that for their property taxes. And that's probably anywhere from, depending on the assessor, you know, 15 to 30% probably right off the bat. Guess who has to pay the rest of that revenue? Because it's not like those total levies went down. All those residents right around in that district now just pay more because this blighted situation becomes reduced. So in essence, if we continue to allow this to be blighted, we're just increasing the property taxes on everyone else. So we must consider all of these factors when we're thinking about this. It's not a perfect situation. Will it be as efficient? Probably not. But the corridor is never going to be perfect. Yes, there's a lot of money being spent on it because it's bad today. Will we build it? Yes, and it will be better, and it'll be better. Does there need to be more interchanges? Probably. Do the adjacent roadways need to be wide? They do. All this needs to be done, and we will continue to have traffic. We will never have an A corridor. It will never be perfect. The question is, what can we live with given the circumstances we have? And going forward on green spaces, that's a different level of standard, and we have to look at that separately. But these are existing circumstances, so we have to look at the whole picture. So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm going to introduce Bill Grieve, who's going to come and discuss. He's a traffic engineer. I want to make a couple points to the traffic engineering. One, we used all the numbers provided by the county. We didn't change any of that. And the assignment we gave to Gewalt Hamilton was to make it safe and not to affect operations. And Bill and Ross will explain exactly how they got there. Bill Grieve.
Thanks, Bill. Bill Grieve, Senior Transportation Engineer with Gewalt Hamilton Associates. Ross is going to get ready to show the Synchro model as well. The reason why we use Synchro is it provides a dynamic tool to be able to actually see on the screen how cars travel through intersections. You know, with Weber Road being an SRA route, you try to make sure that you minimize delays. You try to make sure that through traffic can still progress. So Ross, if you want to show, we're going to focus on the weekday evening peak hour. And the first screenshot that we're going to illustrate is going to be what happens under the existing plans. Here's Grand up to the top. Here's 135th at the bottom. The existing right in, right out on Weber is there. And a couple quick things to indicate is that the traffic volumes on Weber Road are very directionalized. In the evening in particular, over 2/3 of the traffic is traveling southbound. So that means that since the traffic signal, if you can push up just a little bit, the traffic signal that would be in here somewhere really wouldn't be affected for the majority of the trips since 2/3 of those are already traveling southbound. So Ross, if you want to let it run. A couple of things that you're going to notice, in particular on 135th Street, where there's dual lefts planned, the backup is going to extend quite far. In fact, you're going to notice that, because what happens with the existing shopping center driveways, that you have to come out, fight your way through traffic on 135th, and for the traffic destined back to the south, you have to figure out how to get in this queue so they can go. The blue cars are turning left, the yellow cars are turning right, the white cars are going through, and you can also see southbound on Weber Road, there's going to be a little bit of a backup caused as well. And you can start seeing that they're starting to go past the driveway, which makes it very difficult for somebody coming out. They're going to have to cross the lanes of traffic to be able to get in. And we also start seeing traffic backing up within the shopping center itself, and having appropriate access is always very important for the success of a shopping center, to be able to get people in as well as to be able to get people out. So Ross, maybe we want to switch to the future.
All right.
The projected. So we've got the proposed signal here. It's about halfway in between Grand and 135th. What we're looking at is having a southbound left turn lane and a northbound right turn lane and two outbound lanes, one to go left, one to go right. Initially, the thought was maybe we want to make this a four-way intersection, be able to improve access for the west side of Weber Road as well. But realistically, when we take a look at that safety and efficiency, those two factors, you really only want to have the three-way signal for a couple different reasons. One, you eliminate one of the traffic signal phases, which goes against the ability for through traffic to progress. And number two, we really want to make sure that this intersection itself minimizes any type of disruption to through traffic. So if you want to run it. So what happens with the proposed signal, not only do we are able to attract cars heading southbound, be able to go left into the shopping center rather than forcing them all the way down to 135th, but as importantly, if not more importantly, you're starting to see cars heading westbound out of the shopping center driveway that are going to turn south, and those are attracted from the very long westbound queue on 135th. That also helps the fact that I'll be able to make a right out for those who still want to use the entrance on 135th and be able to get into that westbound queue. The westbound queue is very, very important on 135th. In the original condition, we've got 130 seconds of delay plus and a stacking of 450 feet. With the proposed traffic signal in the middle, that delay drops an entire minute down to 76 seconds, and it reduces the stacking on westbound 135th by over 120 feet. That's a good 5 to 6 cars per lane, which helps make sure that we can get out of the shopping center entrances by itself. In addition then, the southbound lefts also come down in both delay by about 7 to 10 seconds, and from 270 feet to 220 feet, which is 2 cars in itself. One of the big things that you'll notice with the proposed signal, and Ross, maybe you want to pull out. And Ross is a lot better at going over this than me, but when the signal turns green to allow traffic to get out of the shopping center, we're not really delaying any of the through traffic up and down Weber Road. Ross, you want to follow up on that a little bit?
Yeah, basically, using the county zone numbers, there's so much traffic on 135th down here that the light for people on Weber Road is green for 60 seconds, and then it's yellow and red for 80 seconds. So during that 80 seconds, that's more than enough time for our proposed signal to let traffic out of the site. And so no one that's just driving through Weber Road will get stopped.
Can you pull up that one really cool chart that's got all the bars on it that shows how the traffic progression works? Ross is a signal timings expert engineer. We have a significant contract with the Illinois Department of Transportation. Ross is one of those guys you see out there at an intersection with the controller boxes in there playing around with it and switching the traffic signals. In fact, just a few weeks ago, you were right at the ramps of 80 in Chicago, improving the traffic signal cycle and signal timings there. So maybe you could explain this a little bit.
So the way this works is that from left to right is time, and up and down is distance. And so these three bars here are the three intersections. And here's what they're doing on Weber Road. It's green, yellow, and red. This is grand up here. Green, yellow, red, just going through time. And then all these blue and red lines are cars. So people driving south of these blue lines, people going north of these red lines. So you can see people driving southbound, they'll stop here at Weber, or at Grand, and they'll have to wait for the green, and then they'll just get right through, and they'll arrive at a proposed signal while it's already green, and they'll arrive at 135th while it's already green, and they'll just get right through the corridor. And the same as the other direction. Northbound people will wait for the green, and they'll just get right through both intersections. This is what makes some of these tightly packed intersections a little easier to program, is that cars can just get right through at the same time. See, and you can see here, while the proposed intersection is red, both of the others are red as well. So almost no one is stopping at it. Basically, the only people that stop at the proposed intersection are people that turn off of Grand onto Weber, or turned off of 135th onto Weber.
Thanks, Ross. Maybe turn the future one back on that shows the signal. I guess in wrapping up a couple things, you know, the memo that you have from the county dated April 25th, 2017, we really appreciate the fact we have provided kind of a chart that showed differences, about a dozen different differences in our traffic model versus the county's work. And it was nice to see that everybody agreed that we really looked at the most stringent analysis parameters that there possibly could be. In fact, I think we're now in agreement that our work is a good way of representing what traffic is going to be out there. We're not going to be creating any undue delay, and it's going to operate safely. One of the other comments from the April 25th memo was that they're concerned about the fact of being able to get the northbound left turn lane at Grand, and then having enough room between Grand and the proposed light to get the southbound left turn lane into the shopping center. So what Ross did, and I hope you don't mind, I'm going to pass these out.
Got it up on the screen as well.
Oh, good. So the 185-foot northbound left turn lane is from the roadway plans. The 200 feet is the paper section plan for the northbound left turn lane. For the proposed shopping center drive, we're looking at 200 feet, even though I think the stacking in the PM peak hour was less than 150 feet. We just wanted to include a little bit of a safety factor. This 100 feet of stacking is probably going to increase by about another 100 feet, but that still puts it within the realm of being able to provide sufficient taper, sufficient stacking, and not impact the design of the northbound left turn lane at Grand. So with that, I'd just like to conclude again. We did our best to make sure that this is a safe and efficient operation, and I think we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Look, I just want to say thank the committee for considering this. We'd like you to consider, I think Mayor Noak said it best, it's not perfect, but I think the guys at Gewalt, Hamilton, Rossonville deserve a lot of credit for making sure it was safe and operationally virtually identical to what it was without the light. We looked at a lot of alternatives, and this was the best we thought we came up with. And we know it's not perfect, but we think it's really good, and we hope that this committee and ultimately the board will consider the equities and consider allowing us to put the light in. So thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you to the mayor and to you all. Thanks.
County Executive. Thank you, Don. I want to appreciate your committee and hearing this.
Turn your mic on. Is it on? I'm sorry. Hey, help you out.
Your committee hearing this issue again. You know, we're in Will County, and we don't need to tell one another how fast Will County is growing, how fast it's changing, the issues that that face us and you as county board members every year. You know, we're going to spend $95 million, state and us, to redo this interchange in this section of Weber Road, probably one of the busiest roads we have in the county. And so, who here can tell us what 5 years is going to bring? Who here can tell us what we need to do 10 years from now? And I think, as Mayor Noak said, the building of economic development on Weber Road is going to continue, especially to the south. And in fact, if you go south down by the Menards and Siegel's farm there, you run into a section that it isn't as close as this, but there's a succession of 3 signal lights already there in a smaller length of the road. In fact, there's signal lights at an intersection that is signal lights to stub streets. They go no place, but they're there for the future. And so we have to think outside of the box. And as the Secretary of Transportation, Randy Blankenhorn, just said last week, he said, we got to think out of the box. We got to think about when we do things, what are we doing? Are we helping move traffic? Are we helping create economic opportunities, which I think this is? And so the same issues are going to be occurring over in the Homer Glen area with the roads that we got over there, 143rd Bell Road, and all those that we're looking at. And so the northern half of the northern part of our county, we are going to be looking at both these opportunities, let's say opportunities or challenges, probably on a weekly basis, monthly basis. That I think the gentleman, Mr. Shiner, has done a great job of redoing his proposal to accommodate our issues. He's got a unique situation, but I echo some of the comments of the mayor that if we don't do something with this, again, give them the opportunity, you might just as well board the thing up and just walk away from it and see what happens. So I believe this is a justifiable way of solving this problem and making another good opportunity for economic development in Will County.
Thank you. Stephen, just I'm going to give the Transportation Department a chance, and then I'm going to go through all the numbers, okay? So you'll definitely get an opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Jeff, you're next.
All right. Thank you, committee. I don't envy the developers, and they take great risks in doing development for our benefit, so we can have these facilities. I don't envy those who have to redevelop sites. It has to be a monumental task. Our task as the DOT is to give you the facts on the guidelines, the standards that are out there, what we use. Our guidelines are set by people, not just engineers, but by committees. IDOT uses their standards. It takes a year for them to redo their standards. The MUTCD, which we're bound to by statute, takes 2 years to update. It hasn't been updated in 9 years. There's public forums. There's all kinds of professionals that comment on those. They take into consideration of a great variety of issues, not just traffic. whether it works, but a variety of issues. So those standards are set, and that's what we abide by. As engineers, we might be kind of rigid in our guidelines, but in these guidelines, there's often the preferred, and then there's a minimum, like the SRA guideline for spacing. Preferred is a half a mile for a signal. The minimum is a quarter mile, which you will see up and down Weber Road. Then it even gives you the option, because of circumstances, to go less if you can show that it works, but it shall not be less than 1,000 feet. Shall is a very strong word in the legal world. The state's attorney's office has commented on the legality or the liability of going beyond what the state statute says. And if you can ask them those questions as far as exposure to the sea to going beyond that. This proposed signal is 50% less than the minimum standard. 50%. That's quite a big liability on my end that we can't accept on my end, but that's up for the county to decide. As far as access, Mr. Shiner said in 1997 and 8 this development came in. That's correct. The SRI guidelines were in place at that time. So a pre-existing condition, that was there at the time. Those guidelines were met by the development. Now they're in a tricky spot because of the Dominick's chain that went out of business in 2014. Tough situation. No one can argue that. But what makes it worse is when competitors like Jewel buy up those leases, so you can't put anything back in to begin with. We talk about grocery stores. Jewel is 1 mile down the road. I mean, I can talk about economic stuff, just as the others have brought up, but my position is the facts of the engineering, so I don't want to go too much into that. But up along Weber Road, we've been abiding by that SRA guideline. The developments down there have been coming in. They're successful. We got Kohl's, Target, Walmart, Menards is down there. Those signals are actually at the quarter-mile spacing. The corridor is doing well for an economic generator. It's truly an economic generator. Now, this spot is truly unique. That's true. But to sacrifice the engineering standards for one instance, that's something this department isn't really willing to accept, but that is your decision. I don't want to do that task either. But as far as the facts, there was mention of access that it would not, that it could fit in. The 200 feet, 205 feet spoken of in our review. Just show you what's left. We're just given the drawing which we saw for the first time today, which is so you have it. This is our current drawing of our plans, what we're proposing to do with our $100 million. As you can see from the shaded area, as we mentioned, we have only 205 feet available to try and squeeze something in between the taper points for 135th and for Grand. That's only 205 feet. Now, the BLR manual says you need 185 feet for your storage. That's the minimum. I think developers have said maybe you could get away with 150 for the storage. The HCS program that we often use to design says you need about 200 feet. You've also got to put in the throat for the signal, which is upwards around 100 feet. It doesn't fit. It does not fit, unless you want to go for another variance. Oftentimes with variances, you create more variances. And that's a slippery slope. So it just does not fit. And I know this other drawing shows some different drawings, but it's not accurate as far as the south end. I mean, the drawing in front of you is what it is. There's only 205 feet in that median. You put the storage and the opening, 100-foot opening for a traffic signal. But again, these are standards, and that's what we're tasked as the engineering department to hold to. And we can go into more detail on the engineering if you want. Chuck Green is here to comment on the synchro If there's any questions on that from our end, we're willing to speak up about that. State's attorney has written their memo about exceptions to the statute. If there's no warrants that are met, it actually opposes the state statutes. They can speak to that if you like. And I can answer any other questions as well.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from the state's attorney's office next.
Well,
I'm going to defer to Katie. Katie wrote the opinion, and she did a very good job. I will say just briefly, there is a Supreme Court decision that ruled that following the MUTCD is a ministerial act. So you have no discretion. But Katie can go through the entire beginning to end with regard to that.
when we're looking at what, Swing forward, okay. When we're looking at what the county's liability might be if we deviate, there's a couple things to know. First off is that there are federal guidelines that are required, and the federal standards are not only put in place federally, but our Illinois state statutes have adopted those standards as our standards. So they are something that our Illinois statutes require that we follow as well. There is a small supplement. I read through the entire thing. None of it has to do with these types of intersections. The only thing that we vary from the federal guidelines is our ability, our right on red laws that we have here. But other than that, the warrants and all the other things are the same as the federal guidelines, and that's something that we have to follow. The state statutes also say that we shall conform to the state manual and specifications. The state manual and specifications is the same as the federal guidelines. It's not a permissive, there's not a question if you can or can't, shall, unless these exceptions are met. It's simply a we shall follow these requirements. There is, as Mary indicated, there is the Supreme Court case that said if we decide to put in a sign, we have to follow the guidelines. The decision to put it in is a discretionary decision, but once you decide that you are going to put in a traffic control device, we have to follow the guidelines. And if we don't follow them exactly, we are liable for any damages that result that are approximately caused by the existence of that sign. And this is something that because if it was in violation, if we put a sign up that did not follow the guidelines, our insurance would not cover us because we are violating state statute and the placement of it. So we would be liable for any accident that took place there. I understand that at one point there was discussions about other people paying for the signal. That doesn't change the fact that anything that happened because of the signal, we would be liable for. Now, in addition to those, this is an SRA corridor. We have designated it for a reason. There are the guidelines for the SRA corridor, as Jeff talked about. And in there it says, if the warrants are met, then you can put a signal within these certain parameters. It's within the parameters that we're prohibited from putting a signal and the warrants aren't met. So we have a double dose of liability if we were to put a signal in a place that the warrants aren't met and the SRA guidelines are not met. If you have questions about this, we can certainly try to answer any of those as well.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the general public who wishes to speak to this matter? All right. Are there any county board members who are not members of the committee that wish to speak to this? Mrs. Winfrey.
I just have a question, and excuse my ignorance, and it may not be a thing that's possible, but you mentioned the storage space that's needed, Jeff. I wonder if instead of the traditional engineering, which tends to be linear this way, if you did it sideways and go onto the property, Mr. Shiner's property along there, could you manage the space and would that be acceptable in the guidelines? I'm just thinking of a different way to manage that.
I guess I'm trying to understand what you mean by sideways. I mean,
Well, the storage typically is along the roadway,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So if you did it perpendicular to the roadway this way, which means you would be going onto his property, it would still provide the storage, but you wouldn't need as much distance this way.
Where would the storage be perpendicular to the property?
To the
Once they
road.
make the turn, they're in the motion of moving in, so where would the storage be?
Okay, maybe I'm thinking the wrong thing when you say storage. When you
I'm
say
talking-
storage,
the
you're
storage I'm
referring
talking
to
about,
cars.
we're talking about where they're stacked up before they're.
Oh, the cars,
back up.
exactly. Never mind. See, I said I would no engineer. I'm thinking of under storage for the light, the mechanics and that sort of thing, so I'm thinking of a different way to maneuver that.
Anyone else?
Mr. Gould,
Yes, sir.
could we have a copy of what Jeff had passed out?
Sure, our staff can provide that.
And I'd like an opportunity for a brief response, too.
Well, why don't you do that now? You'll have to come forward and then the committee members will speak to that. Yes,
Is there an extra copy of this area that you gave out earlier?
Thank you. I did not sign in, but I will when I'm here. It's Richard Kavanaugh, and I'm an attorney with offices at 111 North Ottawa Street in Joliet. I represent BSG, which is the developer here.
I guess the question would be, with the median being 30 feet wide, and what we're proposing is a single left turn lane, there's no problem at all being able to provide a side-by-side left turn lane, rather than, I think, ma'am, what you were talking about, the usual kind of provide it, taper and then provide it again. This plan seems to be, I'll admit, updated from the IDS that was furnished in the original set of plans that you provided us. But still, I think the quick solution is that you do a side-by-side left turn lane, because there's plenty of room within that 30 feet. We only need 12. So that still leaves 18 feet to be able to, for lack of a better engineering term, wiggle the left turn lane in to get to the new driveway.
Just very quickly. First of all, the standards allow for exceptions, and I believe Mr. Walsh mentioned one down by Seagulls with Seagulls and Caton Farm Road, and it's the third one, Root Street, Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Okay, so you have that on Weber Road already. I know Mr. Mustis is very familiar with Mariano's at 45 and 30 in Frankfurt. Coming south, it's not a county road, state highway, 45 and 30, and you have a traffic signal well within the 1,000 feet guidelines there that the state had put in. The case that the state's attorney refers to is a case involving a curve ahead sign that the highway commissioner, instead of putting on the right side of the road, put on the left side of the road, if I'm not mistaken, and somebody looking at the sign drove through the curve. We're not talking about that here. What we have is a safe and efficient traffic pattern, as has been shown by the computer study. We are revitalizing an existing shopping center, and last of all, it's being paid for by the developer. It's being paid for by the developer. So we're asking that this committee and the county board allow this extension. Thank you. Yes, sir.
paid for by developers is a big thing, I guess. Are they paying for the redesign of the existing roadway too, or just that intersection? I mean, what all is affected by that process? Maybe you guys can also help me understand that.
Here, I don't want to talk
This
to
thing's
the
ready to go
town.
to bid in like 5 months. And I just wonder, where's that? Does that delay this project further, or?
A couple things. I'm not going to comment to delay. I don't think it does, but typically what you do is it's like any other exception. I think first to answer your question is we pay for the engineering, and we also pay for the installation. We pay for any changes to the road. My gut feeling is the road's got to be installed, and then we're going to have to come in and make some of those changes. We're going to have to extend we're going to have to make some of those changes. We think the cost with engineering is going to be somewhere between $600,000 and $800,000 compared to do them.
So, Bill, you think this will happen after this construction project is finished?
Well, it's either going to be finished or I'd love to do it concurrently, but I don't think it's going to delay. I don't think it's going to delay the installation of the conditions at all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a question? Steve? No. Yes, you're entitled to reply.
The state letting is currently August. State letting is currently August this year, unless it's moved again. It would have to go in after the construction if something like this were conceived. I could not add that in. We met with top officials in IDOT regarding this issue, and they agreed that this signal location is not a recommended issue, so they wouldn't allow it even if we were to try and put it in during the construction. They would not allow it. So the signals aren't the stuff we were talking about. As far as the other signals, minons, those are actually within standards. Those are not exceptions to the rule. They're not exceptions to the rule down there or anywhere else along there. High Point, south where the Jewel is, that is not an exception either. It's less than a quarter mile, but it's not less than 1,000 feet. So we don't have exceptions. And this drawing, which I was not given at the beginning, the aerial that they gave me an example, we can go back and forth with examples all day long. This is a 4-lane facility. This is not Weber Road. It's not a 6-lane facility. It's different. There are different circumstances to all these exceptions. And we could go back and forth on these all day, but so those are just my comments on those.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, Mr. Ballas, you had your hand up first, so I'm going to begin with you.
Yeah, in Homer Glen, they referred to Homer Glen having a problem, and it goes to the exact same thing that's being talked about right now. I don't know the exact dates, so don't hold me to the dates, but somewhere around 2002, there was a development on 143rd Street just west of Bell. Currently, there's a Jewel across the street. The developer got a right-in and right-out off of 143rd, permission to build, put roads in. And then a new mayor came in and told them you can't do it, and the county went along with it and said they can't do it. The development folded. The developer went bankrupt because he thought he had permission and he didn't. And then, well, he did at the time, but they changed it in midstream. But then the bad thing that happened is, to this day, 2017, nothing is there except the roads that the guy put in. So you're talking about a blighted spot. We already got one in Homer Glen. And then the other thing is, you know, we're a county and we're supposed to be promoting economic development. So reduce taxes. I don't know any district where the taxes aren't too high. So we turn around and we say we are pro-business and we're pro-economic development, then that's our focus, but we make laws contrary to our focus, and we enforce regulations that are contrary to our focus. So raise barriers on Bell Road. Homer Glen doesn't want them, but we're going to get them. I'm sure that there's other cities that don't want things. Romeoville wants this to happen, and we have to go through this whole procedure when we should be looking at it and saying, let's do what we can to help Romeoville economically. Those people are paying too much in taxes. So, you know, to me, this thing is a no-brainer. With that, I'd make a motion to approve.
We'll let everybody have a...
Well, you get a second and then
you
you...
do it and then we'll proceed. Mr. Moran, you're next.
It's the first time I've seen this, so I'm going to, for the time being, I'm going to abstain until when it comes before the planning board, I'll have time to ask questions and digest it a little bit.
You're going to start now. Just want to mention that the Finance Committee is going to begin, so if you need to leave to attend that Finance meeting, proceed.
I do, Don, so would you mind if I went next?
No, Jackie, you can go right now.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say, I have traversed down that street back when it was a Dominic's, and on multiple occasions, I did not make a left turn coming from Bolingbrook on Grand to wiggle my way into the shopping mall, and got mad at myself for missing the turn, and went up to 135th and made the left, and then had to go down, make a U-turn, come around. It's a real royal pain in the butt. That being said, I want us to follow our safety guidelines. Wouldn't it be, I'm going to offer this as a suggestion, the corner there at Grand, if there were some extra signage, bigger signs, you know, alerting people to the shopping center on the left-hand side, on the east side. It seems to me that that would also be a way to promote the store without having to put in the signal if in fact we're not able to carry that variance the way they're requesting. So I would just think you could do some stuff on the roadway to, you know, wake the drivers up that, hey, it's right here, to make your left turn now. You know?
I'd like to ask the developer, what's different about this tenant than what Dominic's was? Why did they leave the signal where Dominic's was there maybe 10 years and didn't have a signal, and they were apparently in business? Can you give me an explanation on that? Sure.
Look, even using the county's own numbers, first of all, direct answer to that is the full access from 135th is being taken away. There is no tenant that's going to take over that Dominic's with the full access going 135th. And experts and officials and engineers all agree with that. And the Grand Avenue suggestion, even under the county's numbers, there's virtually no traffic that's going to go there. It's a residential street. You don't want trucks and cars going there, and tenants aren't going to accept the fact that something 1,200 feet away on a side street that's residential and not 135th as a main drive is going to provide the access necessary for that. Mayor Noak mentioned this, and I think there's a lot of truth to it. It's 66,000 square feet. We think we can re-tenant it. Our cost alone to re-tenant is going to be $4 to $5 million. For a tenant to inventory that space, if it's 3 spaces or 2 spaces, it's going to be another $5 to $7 million. Nobody today in the environment we're in retail is going to spend $12 million and basically not have full access. The stoplight was only installed as a way of providing a safe turn movements into the center and to allow the same timing to go through. It was a solution, frankly, that Steve Golden from Romeoville came up with. The notion that Grand Avenue is going to be the main drive to that shopping center is the end of the shopping center. And we know that. We've gone to tenants. We have to disclose to everybody that, by the way, this widening is coming in and the 135th access is gone. That's the main intersection. And without that, frankly, the center is going to go away. And we know that because we've had to talk with multiple tenants about it. So that's the market reality. And look,
do you have tenants that will sign a long-term lease if they will stay there? Do you know?
Well, CVS is a 20-year lease contingent upon this access. It is executed. They're ready to go. They have walked as a result of the 135th access being taken away. It is a 20-year lease. As I said, that is in place and signed. And they will go with the stoplight as a replacement to the 135th Street access point. And without a stoplight on Weber Road, frankly, it's just not a safe movement. So, I mean, you could have that access with no stoplight, but that would not be something that I would accept.
It's just not right, it's not safe, and it's not the right thing to do. So the light was really a safety issue.
So CVS would not sign a lease if...
No, the CVS lease is executed. It is signed. It is contingent upon getting, restating access. And nothing can be done on 135th as a result of many issues engineering-wise. And so, as I said, Steve Golden came up with the solution to put the light on 135th. And with that light, CVS will in fact go forward. But the lease is hinging upon getting full access back.
Okay, what's all that?
I have a question for probably state's attorney. In circumstances where a developer offers to pay for a signal or road improvements, that's the agreement. Are those funds escrowed and then a letter of credit to back it up, or what's the financing mechanism to ensure that all these improvements that are proposed are paid for in full?
Yeah, I mean, both of those could be done. That they be escrowed and a letter of credit. I would recommend. In the past, the county has waived the letter of credit with a bond, and we've been left holding the bag with the expenses. So we should have both.
Thank you. Mr. Ferry.
I would be in favor of Mr. Shiner's proposal based on the fact that creation of jobs has always been a primary interest of mine. In keeping people working, whether it be for renovation of the existing or future businesses that would come in and hire people. So I'm in favor of Mr. Shiner's proposal based on that.
Thank you. Mr. Singer.
Sure.
We spoke on this matter last month in the context of trying to balance and appreciate Jeff and the staff's duty to follow guidelines and to perform their duties as our engineers, contrasted with the reality of what we're seeing as the county continues to develop. We've seen and continue to see certainly an interest to stay true or pure to the concept that county highways are highways and they're not local roads. They are arterials designed specifically to function as a highway and move traffic from one point to another. That's fine. And as I mentioned last month, though, our reality is that that's just not the way that our municipalities and the county has developed along many of those routes. And we have to respond to that. I even mentioned Laraway Road as an example. We have signals on Laraway Road. We have crosswalks on Laraway Road that would not have normally been there. And I had that argument and that fight years ago on this committee when Mr. Latz was the engineer. We have a signal at 80th Avenue on Laraway Road that wasn't warranted. But we fought it out and we put it there because the reality is whether or not it fits a specific warrant to or not to put up a signal, the reality is twice a day there are 50 to give or take 60 buses that are turning on that road. And every Saturday morning there are hundreds and hundreds of cars turning there to go to either soccer or baseball games and practices. And you can't do a traffic study that captures only 15 minutes, 30 minutes a day that makes then a warrant effective. So we made the decision to put it there after quite a bit of an argument. This scenario is the same. We have all driven through urbanized areas, whether it be Oak Park or Chicago or go through areas of Dallas, heck, downtown Joliet, Jim, Mariano's on Route 45. Over and over and over and over again, I see a signal within 1,000 feet of another signal. It happens all the time. I see it in Atlanta, I see it in Dallas, we see it throughout the Chicagoland area, I see it in my hometown of Frankfort on Route 45, a Illinois State Highway. So I understand that this is by no means perfect. I think the petitioner and his counsel has made the case repeatedly this is not perfect. And it's certainly not perfect, but I do have to hand it to the village for coming up with a solution and trying to demonstrate that leadership in this. But more importantly, we have faced many situations throughout this county where something is either not warranted or certainly not perfect, and we did it anyway because it was the best option. We see in our communities all over the Chicagoland area things that may not be warranted, but it was the best option. And this is not something that may fit a warrant. However, I believe it's the best option.
Thank you. Yes. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I've heard some good arguments on both sides. I do respect our engineer, Jeff Ronaldson, along with our state's attorney office. I think they brought a very good argument, citing state and federal statutes, and certainly we need to abide by those. However, I think the petitioner today in the village of Romeo also has a very good argument why this project should go forward. So I guess I'm wondering, there can be, or can there be a happy solution? Maybe not happy, but a solution. Because I think it would be shame on our part if we let a $95 million investment go by, and after hearing the comments and arguments of many others, that could be an empty corridor there. So there has to be, staying within state and federal statutes that have been cited here on today, a way that we can work out a solution, because what it sounds like to me, I'm not only a committee, Mr. Chairman, but if I was, I would be 100% supportive of this project, but I still want to abide by the state and federal statutes that were brought up on today, so there has to be some solution where we can work this out.
Thank you. And if the committee sends this forward, then eventually the entire board will have an opportunity to do that, and everyone will have a chance to express their concern.
Yeah.
Good. Mr. Bell.
You know, when you're talking about state and federal statutes, I guess that means whoever decides somewhere, and I'm not on that committee, which ones we're going to obey and which ones we're not going to obey. Chicago is a sanctuary city violating federal law. Chicago, wait a minute now, that's an example of federal law. How about the state of Illinois? They have a statute in their codes saying they can't give unfunded liabilities to anybody else. But what do? They give everybody unfunded liabilities. So they don't even obey their own statutes. So, you know, when I hear somebody say this is why we have to obey their law, well, that's because that group decides to obey the law. If that group didn't like it, they'd find 50 things why we shouldn't obey the law, and everyone would go, yeah, you're right. So, you know, I'm just pointing this out. You know, it's all in the perception of the beholder. It's not actually what the laws are, because the state of Illinois is not going to enforce their laws on us, and neither is the feds.
Okay, Corey, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ballas made a motion. I'll second his motion for approval.
All right, there's a motion to send this to the executive committee. I'm sorry, Don.
One more time.
You can have a motion, second, and discussion.
It's been moved and seconded, Mr. Moran.
I just want to say, you know, I've been involved in a lot of meetings about this project with Romeoville, the Highway Department, IDOT, over and over again. And I asked for a copy of the traffic study ahead of time. I was told I would get it. I got it this morning. So it's, this is the most encouraging plan that I've seen of this so far. But I just like a little bit of time to digest it. So if it goes to the county board,
You'll get a chance
I'll have a better
to
opinion.
do that again. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, with that, Mr. Lettis, go ahead.
If I can,
Yes.
obviously this falls into Mark and Brian's district here, and influences our constituents, and I would encourage, you know, I see arguments on both sides. I would lean more towards approving this, and I just would ask that you guys consider moving this to the board. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, there's a motion and a second to move this forward. Please call the roll.
Weigel.
Yes.
Ballage.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Moran.
Present.
Singer.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to the resolutions. First resolution is an award of contract to Iroquois Paving Corporation on April 19th, 2017, Zilm Road from Route 113 to County Line Road, District 6.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Second, it's a resolution for the improvement by the county under the Illinois Highway Code for Zone Road from Illinois Route 113, County Line Road, County Board District 6, using MFT funds.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Third, those of you who were on the board at the time remember this. We had a jurisdictional transfer with the state of Illinois. This is a resolution to establish Hoff Road as County Highway 90, County Board District 6. Second. Questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Jeff? Discussion?
Yes, I only have one item. It's an update on the rate study that we've been doing. It is coming to a close, thankfully, in the next month or two. As part of that, we do have public open house coming up. There are 3 opportunities, May 16th, 17th, and 18th. At various locations. All of them are at 5 to 7:30 at night. Those locations are on our website. I can give you copies of those locations if you like. But those are opportunities for the public to come in and speak regarding our rate plan, and hopefully we bring that forward in June or July for a final completion.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. State's Attorney's Office, Katie, anything today? Anything else?
Possibly need an executive session for
All
that
right.
discussion.
We'll do that. Work reports, yes, Dan?
State's Attorney?
Yes.
Do you have anything to, in reply to what Mr. Kavanaugh said about the Supreme Court case?
That was the facts of the case, that the stop sign, or the curve sign was placed on the wrong side of the road. However, the law that they, and the rule that they relied on in making that determination, they said, these are the guidelines, and if you choose to place a sign, you have to follow the guidelines. So that is the law that I applied to this factual circumstance. If we choose to put in a signal, we have to follow the guidelines for the placement of the signal.
And one more question, I guess. Is there any increased liability to the county if we act against the advice of the state's attorney's office?
I don't think that against our advice increases your liability. However, I'm sure any good plaintiff's attorney is going to be using the minutes of this to show that we knew that it was against the law to put it in, and we chose to put it in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Work reports, Eric, Ray, anything? Comment?
I'm just moving along with the land acquisition for Weber Road and the other highway projects that we're working on. And the plan's ready to go off a bid.
Okay, thank you very much. Reports by members of the committee. Don, anything?
Question.
Oh, just a second. Go ahead.
The Cedar Railway improvement, I checked our schedule here. It says a letting on September 22nd. Does that mean it will be constructed next year or when?
If we were to hold September letting, which was our target, we would let it and maybe do some underground work in the winter and full construction would be in the spring. However, we are in eminent domain on a couple parcels, so that letting is potential for slipping. But the intention is still to start next year.
Okay, if you get all the...
If we get all the right of way, the utilities are out of the way, we will start in the spring.
Okay.
Thank you. Don?
As long as we're talking about eminent domain, where are we at on property acquisition at Weber, do you know? What's the latest?
A couple more
In
cases.
other words, does it look like the bidding is going to slip again from August?
As far as our parcels go, Don, I don't think so. But the entity that's been causing us to slide has been IDOT and their ability. And I have not heard an update from IDOT on their...
But they're going to do the letting ultimately, right?
They're all
So
letting.
All the lettings go through.
So if they don't have theirs, it won't go.
Correct.
That's correct.
Can you check and get us a status on
Yes.
where they're at?
We can do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Don't want to lose our quorum here, so we're going to move on.
Mr. Brooks will leave you.
Herb, you can help us out. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mark, you're next. last but not least.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of my colleague, Mr. Curlides, and also the residents over at Caroline, I would like to request an item be placed on the agenda for next month in June, and that is the installation of a temporary stoplight at the south entrance of Caroline on Weber. And full discussion of that be engaged.
All right. Lana, can you see that that's
I will, and I see John making notes also.
included in the next month's agenda? Thank you, Mark. General public, comments? Hearing none. I have no announcements to make other than just to amplify what Jeff said. These different meetings coming up. It'd be nice if members could attend one of those. State's Attorney's Office, executive session.
Yes, I would ask for executive session over potential lawsuit or litigation regarding 95th Street now.
Already. Done. Motion done. Okay, call the roll, please.
Weigel,
Yes.
Berry,
Yes.
Moran,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
and Mr. Brooks.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to executive session.